Nick Kyrgios' replacement for the United Cup, Jason Kubler, cites the team's never-say-die attitude as the driving force behind his win against Great Britain's Dan Evans. Kubler bounced back after a 0-5 set, took the game to a tiebreak, and emerged victorious in the end. But Kyrgios isn't out of the conversation just yet. He's taken his time off to clap back at his critics, including Lleyton Hewitt. All that and more in today's video. Starting with Jason Kubler is finally back. Australian professional tennis player Jason Kubler started off his career on a promising note. The young gun was seen as the world's next Rafael Nadal at one point because of his promising junior career. However, Kubler's hereditary knee condition, which caused weakened meniscus in his joints, held him back from achieving the same greatness as the Spaniard. Now at 29 years old, Kubler might finally be back for good. Speaking to the press after his phenomenal victory over Evans, the Australian professional admitted that the win was made even more momentous by the fact that this was the first time he'd managed to play the sport for a whole 18 months without fault. It had always been 6 months on and 6 months off before this point. For context, Jason's had 6 knee injuries over the course of his professional career. The last game of 2022, Kubler versus Dan Evans, was one to remember. Alex de Minaur, Zoe Hives, and Madison Inglis each lost to their British rivals, and it was up to the world-ranked 107 to salvage the team's victory. While he might not have been able to save the sinking ship, Kubler's win gave Australia the morale boost they needed to keep going. His win against world-ranked 27 has been described as a come-from-behind win that no one saw coming, probably not even team captain Lleyton Hewitt. Kubler's win over the favored player on December 30th boosted his rankings to a career-high 87. Coming up next, let's talk about the game. The first edition of the United Cup started off as the opener for the 2023 ATP and Women's Tour. The hardcourt mixed-gender tennis event was played in 3 venues in Australia: Brisbane, Perth, and Sydney, from late December 2022 to early January 2023. Kubler's team, Australia, was placed in Group D alongside Great Britain and Spain. The games were best of 5, with Great Britain taking the lead win after win. Alex de Minaur was the first one to fall against Cameron Norrie, followed by Zoe Hives and Madison Inglis, who came in as a replacement for Ajla Tomljanovic after being sidelined for an injury. While Britain had established their lead, Kubler was called in to salvage Australia's morale against the heavily favored World 27-ranked Dan Evans. Kubler himself was called into play as Nick Kyrgios' replacement after the latter pulled away over an injury, something he was criticized for and something he later responded to in a cryptic tweet as well. But we'll get to that later. The 29-year-old emerged as a surprise winner with a gutsy sweep against the favorite. Kubler punched above his weight with a 6-3 lead in the first set but slumped down to 0-5 in the next. Evans had previously reigned over the Australian, but this didn't stop Kubler from scoring straight set wins in the third round and pushing the game to a tiebreak where he gave Australia the win they so rightfully deserved. Samantha Stosur and John Peers gave the team their second win the same day over Britain's Harriet Dart and Johnny O'Mara. Moving on, Kubler wasn't meant to play. Kyrgios pulls out. The chair umpire at Ken Rosewall Arena had to remind the crowd more than once to temper its excitement as Jason Kubler obliterated Dan Evans on December 30th's game. Speaking to the press after the game, Kubler claimed this was definitely a match he'd remember. It's not every day you bounce back from a 0-5. He went on to thank Lleyton Rusty Hewitt and Alex Demon de Minaur for their never-say-die attitude, which motivated him to go above and beyond in what was otherwise a losing game. But in spite of how Kubler shined on December 30th, he wasn't meant to be playing that day. In fact, had Nick Kyrgios not pulled out of the United Cup last minute, citing injury, the veteran player wouldn't have had a shot at redemption for the first time ever in his professional career. Kyrgios, the self-proclaimed bad boy of tennis, was met with controversy again after team captain Lleyton Hewitt called him out for withdrawing from the tennis event last minute. Was it last minute? In the team captain's defense, Kyrgios pulled out from the tennis event a mere 24 hours before the first game. Hewitt chose to keep his emotions to himself, but cited a lack of communication on Kyrgios' part when pestered for comment by the press. The 27-year-old went on to explain himself to The Age, stating that winning at a Grand Slam level was no easy feat. He needed to rest the injury he sustained at Dubai to give himself the best possible shot at winning the Open later on. But in Hewitt's defense, the Australian team found out about Kyrgios' withdrawal 10 minutes before Wednesday's press conference. What's more, did Hewitt throw Kyrgios under the bus? We'll let you decide that one. Here are the facts as we know them. Inglis was called in to replace Tomljanovic Tomljanovic after the latter sustained an injury during the tennis event. Inglis would go on to lose the game and propel Great Britain to an undisputed best-of-5 victory over Australia. Kubler's win was a morale booster, but he couldn't salvage any hope for the team to move ahead. It seems like Kyrgios has been using the time he's taken off to rest his injured ankle to fuel the fire between him and Hewitt. The bad boy of tennis responded to a tweet about Tomljanovic's injury with a not-so-subtle message of his own, asking if the female professional's injury would be something Sam Stosur would hold over her head, as Hewitt did in his case. He even quoted Hewitt's press conference after he had learned that Kyrgios is pulled out right back at him. At the press conference 10 minutes before the team captain learned that their star player and Australia's highest-ranked male ATP player would not be playing, Hewitt very subtly called out the bad boy of tennis for the lack of communication. Kyrgios had only announced his decision moments ahead after preparations for a highly anticipated game against Spain's Nadal had already been made. Interestingly, this isn't the first time the Aussies haven't seen eye to eye. Previously at the Davis Cup, Kyrgios' once mentor called out the world ranked 22 for choosing money over representing his country. Sources claim that the two haven't been particularly fond of one another since, and Kyrgios' last-minute withdrawal was probably the last nail in the coffin for the once great friendship. Now for Kubler wished Kyrgios a quick recovery. Plagued by injuries throughout his professional career, the once favorite to become the world's next big three has only now been able to shine on the hard court. Previously, Kubler was advised to exclusively play on clay courts to relieve any pressure on his knees. And while the rest of the team might not be Kyrgios' fans at the moment, Kubler was sure to tell the world that he was thankful the 27-year-old allowed him the opportunity to play on December 30th. Kubler told the press that he, and everyone else for that matter, knew that had the tennis star played, he would have done phenomenally well. He then stated that he was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to play in Kyrgios' absence, that he took the opportunity with both hands, and finally wished Kyrgios a speedy recovery. The only other time, besides right now, when Kubler managed to secure a spot in the top 100 was back in 2018. That too at 91. Analysts forecasted the world's number 117 to shoot up in rankings following his win at the United Cup. And they were right. Previously, in spite of a phenomenal performance at Wimbledon against Evans as well, Kubler's rankings didn't go up. He was still under the top 100. While Kubler's win might only have served as a morale booster against Great Britain, his contributions to the team were enough for Australia to secure a consolation win against Group D's third team, Spain. The United Cup concluded on January 8th with Team United States taking home the trophy after defeating Italy in the finals. Finally, Kyrgios is back for the Aussie Open. Nick Kyrgios announced his withdrawal from the United Cup merely 24 hours before the inaugural game at Ken Rosewall Arena. He claimed he needed to rest an ankle injury sustained in Dubai before the Aussie Open and was therefore foregoing his participation in the United Cup, where his game against Nadal had already been publicized and was set to become the highlight of the 2023 ATP opener. But all's well that ends well, for Kubler that is. Speaking of the Aussie Open, the prestigious tennis tournament is the first major Grand Slam event of the season preceding the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. The major tennis event will run throughout January, with the qualifiers currently taking place. Kyrgios has been seeded as number 20 with de Minaur as number 23. Truthfully, Kyrgios could have had the opportunity to be ranked fairly higher after his stunning runner-up performance at Wimbledon. However, the prestigious British tennis event was stripped of its ranking points after they announced their decision to ban Russian and Belarusian players owing to the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian conflict. On the women's side, Tomljanovic's precautionary withdrawal from the United Cup might come back to haunt her, as she'll either be duded from the Open or will have to play against higher-ranked opponents. Due to Wimbledon's 2022 controversy, this year's Aussie Open is set to be a bit more controversial than it has been in the past. Several big names, including Naomi Osaka, have announced their decision to sit out the year's first major Grand Slam event. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Do you think Kyrgios could have played any better than Kubler at the United Cup? And is it fair for the bad boy of tennis to come after the team captain like that? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content just like this one. We'll see you at the next one. Bye!